Welcome back, everybody, to the No Ball Dynasty podcast. Getting it right now. We are here today to discuss our top 10 2026 draft prospects. But before we get into that, we have to talk to Bentley. Duke just won the ACC championship. They couldn't have done it without Bentley's fandom, so I wanted to get him on specifically to talk about that. And I think we'll be talking about their best player here very quickly. So how are you feeling?
I'm good. It's just kind of what we come to expect as Duke fans. We cut down nets and we hang banners. That's what we do around here. This is 2 years in a row. That's pretty cool. Kind of a chokehold on the ACC. We've done it 2 years in a row without two of our 6 best players each go around. This year was 2 starters. Caleb Foster probably done for the year, and Gongba, who's just resting, come back from injury, going to play in the NCAA tournament. So it's cool to see, the team win despite adversity. Yeah, it's cool. Now it's on to the big tournament. We expect to cut down those nets as well.
Yeah, I think they got a good chance, as they did last year. They probably should have won it last year. That happened, of course. But I think they were better than Florida. So
yeah,
Florida would have been tough, though. Their size would have been tough for them. But yeah, I think it's a good chance. Michigan, of course, losing to Purdue. I think Michigan's got a problem with dominant point guards. We saw it. They struggled to guard Bennett Sturts, which I kind of thought would happen. They struggled to guard Smith today. Especially veteran guys who can create their own shot and create for others. They seem to struggle. Elliot Kadu, as good as he is, he's undersized, and they play really big. And I think they put Yaxel on Smith after a while.
Yeah.
Try to slow him down, which I thought he maybe should have done that all game. But if that's what you're doing, and you have to keep Kadu out there, then he has to play someone even bigger than him. It was interesting, to get to see that game. But yeah, happy for Purdue. A little bit of an upset. It's important to talk about because we're going to be talking about some players in college. I believe everybody is a college player. We have no international players on our top 10. The first international player for most people comes in Kareem Lopez is really the first one for most people.
Are we just going to gloss over the Big 12 championship game, or you don't want to bring that up?
Well, I think that was kind of expected.
Okay.
Arizona's the better team.
Yeah, you guys only lost by 4. That game was there.
If Fleming's played a little better, I think he's been shooting pretty poorly. And we'll talk about it, but I think I'm moving him down my board 1 or 2 spots just because I think he was so hot to start the season and now he's kind of leveled out, and I think that's probably what he actually is. Hard to know. You never get enough volume in a single college season to know how good of a shooter someone is. Yeah, tough game. I'd be happy to play them again. They're a good team. They're fun to watch. Arizona's interesting and fun. They have a lot of guys I like on that team. Maybe the most important NBA team that for NBA scouts. They got 5 guys that I think could be first round picks, and then 1 or 2 guys could potentially go in the second round. So they got quite a lot of talent over there. But okay, we're gonna Bentley and I both created a top 10. I, of course, shamelessly put it on my Substack, as I say every show, at allindynasty.substack.com. I actually have a top 20 up, but for this purpose, we only did the top 10 because top 20 takes a lot more time and effort to go through. We combined the scores. Basically, how it works is if I had someone 1 and Bentley had someone 2, that person got a 1.5 score, right? So it's just an average of the 2 scores, and we're going to go through, talk about kind of why we have players where they are, and maybe best fit for some of them, and kind of what we project his style to be in the NBA. I also want to highlight Bentley is hoping for some blocks tonight. So if he goes mute, he's looking for blocks. That's the category he needs tonight because he's losing by 1 or 2, I believe.
Yeah, I am down 1.
Yeah, and that swings the matchup because it's 5-4 right now. So
yeah, and Andre Drummond just gave up a layup with the basket, so perfect.
Yep. Any given Sunday, you got it. And she's beat you twice this year. Sam is who he's playing, for people who have watched our other shows. Okay, well, let's get started. Good thing is, number 1, we had the same guy, which makes this easy. We both had a man close to your heart.
Mm.
Duke legend, a 1-year legend already. Maybe the best player in college basketball this year from a contribution standpoint. It's basically him or Lindeborg, in my opinion. Pick your poison, who you think's been the best player. One of them is 5 years younger than the other, though, so it's been significantly more impressive to me. But Cam Boozer, obviously, is who we're talking about. We both have him at number 1 for our Dynasty, and this is really for categories. It's kind of how we're thinking about this, but, there's not maybe not huge differences in points, but I think Cam may be a little lower in points leagues, but I do think in categories, for me, he's the number 1. I guess since we both have him number 1, Bentley, I will ask you 2 questions. First, what do you think is going to be his position in the NBA? Do you think he can play multiple positions and guard multiple positions? And what do you think is going to be his skill that defines him?
Skill that defines him in the NBA. Can I just say all of them?
He's number 1 for a reason.
Yeah, he's going to be really good at a lot of things. I'll ask your first question first. So, Cam Boozer is not Draymond Green, but I think that his position in the NBA on the basketball court will resemble that of Draymond Green. He is going to play small ball center when they want to play fast. Obviously the death lineup they had in Golden State where Draymond played the center. Cam can do that. He can be the big man on the court. He operates well within the painted area. He's big enough and strong enough to handle, the banging in the paint. I think most of his time will be spent playing the 4, right? So there'll be a true center on the court, and it will allow him to play the power forward position. And then I think that in really, really big lineups, he could even step down and play the 3 if need be. We've seen enough ball handling and outside shooting for him this year at Duke to prove to me that he's able to play a wing position if needed. He's not the fastest guy on the court, right? So he's not going to fly around on offense or on defense really, but I think he can be serviceable playing a wing position if asked. And then his defining skill, maybe scoring efficiency. He can score from so many different spots on the court at super efficient levels. That may be really what sets him apart from other people in the league. I mentioned him being big enough and strong enough to handle himself in the paint. When he gets around the rim, he's almost unstoppable at the college level at least. And oftentimes, if he misses a shot, he's the one there to clean up the offensive rebound and put it back up. He does that so many times. So I'm going to say scoring efficiency would be what sets him apart. I don't know that he's ever going to be a 25-point-a-game guy in the league, but he probably will not be asked to do that at any point in his career. That doesn't seem like something I envision him doing in the league.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll answer my own question because I asked it, obviously because I have my own opinion on it, but I don't think he can play the 5, at least not at any volume that will be relevant. I think he will have to primarily play the 4. You hope he would be able to play the 3 at some point in certain lineups. I think that is a big swing for him. If he can play the 3, then his value goes up quite a bit. But yeah, I think his role is going to be primarily at the 4, and what I would say I think his defining skill is going to be his creation at that position is going to be pretty high. You don't get a lot of guys that create the way he does at his size and skill, so I actually think from what's going to stand out, I actually think it's going to be that, and his rebounding. I think his rebounding is going to be
yeah,
especially for a 4, where nowadays you don't get a lot of, maybe you don't get 10 plus rebounds from 4s. I think you're going to see that from him. He's going to be an exceptional rebounder for his position, but I think his playmaking is pretty elite for his size and where he's going to play on the floor. So that's kind of what I think. But I also agree, if he can shoot high 30s from 3, he's an around the basket guy, pretty efficient. After 2 or 3 years, I'd probably first he'll have to figure out how to use his body and his strength effectively. But I figure within 2 or 3 years he'll have that figured out. So. We don't have to go into him anymore. I think that kind of covers him because we both have him number 1. So we'll go ahead and move on. We both have the same guy at number 2. So we're going chalk here so far. Darren Peterson from Kansas, guard. He's had a quad injury all year. So there's a lot of projection, I think, here. We've seen flashes of his scoring ability. He's got great size for the position. He's a long six. But there's a lot of question marks here, and I think they're legitimate question marks. I think it seems like, and I could be wrong, Bentley, but it seems like both of us are betting on the pedigree that we saw, to include the playmaking pedigree that we saw when he was in high school, the defensive capability with his length and agility. And also some of the rebounding, some of the things that you're not seeing as much of because of the way he's playing, and his on-ball creation being significantly better. What you're not seeing, most of that, because I believe because of the injury, and it seems like it's a relatively serious quad injury. What do you like about Peterson, and do you think, is this a projection thing for you too?
Yeah, so if this was not, if this were the real NBA draft, I'd have him at my 1 spot rather than a categories Dynasty draft. Derek Peterson is, I wrote this in my, like the write-up I sent you, he's my favorite draft prospect in a very, very long time, not named Cooper Flagg. I don't know exactly, because I didn't go through the whole thought exercise of, going back in time to figure out who I liked more. But he's up there. I mean, he's an awesome, awesome basketball player, and I am betting on the pedigree, like you said. I know that the injury thing is real, and people like to clown him for taking himself out of games and not playing in the second half or whatever. Basketball's really hard when your quads don't work. It's not an easy thing to work around. So for him to be as awesome as he is with the quad injury, playing at in the highest level of games, he plays in the Big 12. That's the best conference in the country. He plays on a really the team is really good because he's on it. I'll say it like that. I'm confident that he's going to be an awesome NBA player. He, I said again in my write-up that he could come in, be the best player on a team that is probably 500 as a rookie. He could do that. Now it's not going to happen because that's not how the NBA works. He'll come in and he'll be on a team that loses 60 games, and they'll try to get another top draft pick to pair with him next year. But I think as long as his quad is okay, he could be an instant contributor to a very good team in the NBA. Sort of like the Boozer thing, he has so many of the tangible skills that you want in a superstar NBA player. It's hard to really say what would be his defining skill. So I'm going to take the coward's way out and say that just his entire package is his defining skill, right? He's just such a complete basketball player, and not a lot of the stuff has been on display because of the injury, like you mentioned. But when healthy, I think that we're going to see one of the most complete guards in the NBA come out of Kansas, and Darren Peterson.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Obviously, I am at 2 as well. I think one thing that's made it really difficult is you haven't been able, like I said, haven't been able to see him play make, haven't been able to see him get to the rim very easily, and I think that's all quad related. That was one of his major talents at the high school level, was getting and finishing at the rim, especially over people, and he just doesn't have the explosiveness to do it. If medicals are fine, I feel really good having him here. I think really outside of blocks, he's going to do basically every category, at a decent to good level, and even blocks, he averages half a block a game on an injured quad. So if he gives you half a block a game, that's not bad from a guard spot. So I think he's going to do a lot, and I also think he has the highest upside. He could be a 50, 40, 90 guy in that territory at some point on high volume. I'm not saying he'll be exactly that, but if he's 47, 38, 85, for his career, that would not blow me away. He seems to be the best shot maker in the draft, so I feel great having him here. Obviously, if the medicals are bad, then we'll deal with that when it comes down the pipe, and I think those rumors will be out. Mike, well, we have a tie at 3 and 4, actually. I'll say both of them. We'll talk about one versus the other that I think is more intriguing. We have a tie where one of us had this player at 3, one of us had it at 4, and we alternated. My order was AJ DeBonsta and then Caleb Wilson, pretty chalk, I think, for most people. And then Bentley had the reverse order with Caleb Wilson at 3 and AJ DeBonsta at 4. I guess let's talk about Caleb Wilson because you have him at 3. I have actually seen some traction recently, and it could just be the draft cycle starts to get a little stale when there's like, I feel great about this top 3, right? Like Caleb Wilson is, he's definitely number 4, but these 3 can't be touched, and no matter what Caleb Wilson does, he'll be number 4. But because they've been saying that for so long, you're starting to see some draft analysts who are like, well, maybe Caleb Wilson could go number 3, right? Like at least in the real NBA draft, not for fantasy purposes, but so. That's a sign of how scouts kind of think about him already, right? They think he has the potential to be up at this level. He is an elite defensive player already, an elite finisher around the rim for a guy who's kind of thin. He's pretty skinny for his position. I can't imagine what he'll look like when he bulks up because he's already great around the rim. He's shown some shooting ability, like flashes of it. He's shown some playmaking ability. I think he's a very intriguing prospect. It may have a higher ceiling than some of these other guys in the top 3. If everything works out for him, just because of the physical tools that he has. But yeah, what possessed you? I'm just kidding. Why do you have Caleb Wilson over AJ DeBonsta? Actually, let me first clarify. I had, when I first put this out, my Substack, there was a guy I posted on Reddit, right? Like, oh, look at my Substack, and people will go and read it, and this guy goes, "You're insane for having Darren Peterson over DeBonsta." And I'm like, so you must be extra insane because you have Caleb Wilson over DeBonsta. So talk to that guy. Tell me why it's not that crazy.
Yeah, having Wilson over DeBonsta, I don't feel like is a slight on DeBonsta. He's obviously incredibly gifted, and might be a really good NBA player. I don't know, right? But Wilson, I think, provides more value on the court than does DeBonsta. He does more things at a higher level than AJ does right now. That may change in the future, but like currently, Caleb Wilson is a better basketball player than is AJ DeBonsta. For 2 guys who are relatively similar in size, DeBonsta a little heftier. He's just filled out a little more than Caleb Wilson. Wilson is more instinctive on the defensive end, and even on the offensive end, I think. He's one of the guys that's always in the right spot at the right time. And that's tough to teach, you know? Now, DeBonsta, he has the ball a lot more than Caleb Wilson does, to be fair. And obviously Caleb is out for the rest of the year. But, like, when he was playing, Caleb played off the ball more than did DeBonsta. And that is something that DeBonsta is going to have to figure out in the NBA, is that, like, guards matter more in the NBA than they do in college usually. So he's going to have to learn how to thrive off the ball, whereas Caleb Wilson, I think, already has that skill set going into this season's draft. He's an underrated defender. People, they don't really talk about that right now with him. He's not like a great elite rim protector or anything like that, right? But I think that when called upon, he can be like a high-level defender, like an on-ball defender when asked. And then obviously the instinctive stuff that I mentioned, like that plays into the defensive side of being in the right place, playing in passing lanes, hands, affecting shots and stuff like that. So I've said way too many nice things about a North Carolina Tar Heel in the last 60 seconds, and it makes me feel bad about myself. So I'm going to stop talking about Caleb Wilson now.
All right, thank you. That's solid analysis. Appreciate that. I don't have a problem with Caleb Wilson going here. I think I've been like soft pitching like that. I don't like DeBonsta that much. When I've been doing that for like 2 weeks or something like that, I've been like, well, I don't know if he's a top 3 guy. Like even in the NBA, like I don't know if he's a top 3 guy. And it's like a defensive concern for me, and potentially like a fit concern. Wilson, I think, is going to be a good player, like as long as he's doesn't have injuries. The floor is pretty high for him, and I think the ceiling's pretty high for him as well. So I think I'm a little more risk averse than the average, I guess, fantasy manager would be. So I was thinking about putting Wilson 3 as well. So I don't really have a problem. I think it's very close. What I will say for DeBonsta is if he plays defense, then this is a much different conversation. If he can get some steals, actually play defense. I know that for fantasy that maybe doesn't matter as much, but like for him to get the minutes, he's got to like stand in front of the opposing team. So it is going to matter because he's not. Let's say he goes to Indiana, Rick Carlisle's not going to let him just like Olay defense everybody, right? Like he's not going to put up with that. He's going to get time because he's going to be a high pick, but if he doesn't play defense, like the floor could kind of fall out for him, where he's just like a 20 point per game guy who is an okay rebounder and an okay passer, and that's about it. Like that's all you get from him, right? And maybe he can't shoot threes, right? That's not the best. I obviously think he'll be probably a top, not top, but at the worst like a 22 point per game scorer, which is obviously a pretty high floor from that perspective. But I just want to see more from him on the defensive end, be engaged, get steals, like get blocks. He has all that athleticism. He doesn't block any shots because he's just not doing anything. But maybe, and the argument has been, he plays on a NBA team. He's going to have talent around him offensively, so he doesn't have to do everything like he does at BYU. So he'll be able to play defense, which I think is a fair argument. But yeah, I'm fine with Caleb Wilson at 3. I think if we had a draft right now, like if we had our Dynasty draft right now, and I likely would have the 3rd or 4th pick, I'd be happy to have either one of these guys in about the same range for me. Even though if you look at my Substack, I do have Caleb Wilson a tier below. I think if I was to rewrite that today, I would move Wilson up into the same tier with those other 3 guys personally. So I think it's kind of a wash in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, so we did 3 and 4 there. Let's go down to 5. We have University of Houston guard Kingston Flemings, who's been okay of late, but had a great start to the season. I think he's probably the best two-way point guard in the draft. I think he's going to be a great contributor on both ends of the floor. The big swing skill for him, I think, is going to be the three-point shooting. But he's going to get steals. He's going to get blocks. His stocks are if you look at his block percentage and steal percentage, they're elite for his position already. I'm at the college level, obviously. He's maybe the quickest guy in the draft. Can just blow by everybody. Gets to the rim. If he can finish effectively at the rim or find like a float game, he's going to be a good scorer. If he can get a 3, obviously he'll be a great scorer. We just don't know if that's going to be the case at volume. But I think from a categories perspective, he gives you the best chance of like if you're in like a build that has a lot of stocks, like you're looking to win stocks, and he's going to be a guard that's really going to help you contribute there, which is unique, right? Not most guards are not giving you blocks. They'll give you steals, but he even is elite at that already. So how do you feel about Kingston Flemings versus this guard-packed class? This is a class of, I don't know, there's 6 or 7 guards I think you could easily put in the top 10, and there would be a justification for it.
Yeah, that's true. I really like Kingston Fleming. When I watch him, it's impressive his ability to get anywhere on the court anytime he wants. You know, if he wants a paint touch, he can get a paint touch. If he wants to drive baseline, he can do that. And there's almost nobody in the country that can stay in front of him. Yeah, because like you mentioned, he's probably the quickest guy in this draft. And I think, obviously, you're a Houston fan, so you've watched more intently than I do all of their games. I've watched a decent amount of Houston this year, though, so I feel pretty good speaking on it. If he develops those skills that you were mentioning, like a finishing package around the rim, if his three-point shot continues to come along, then I think he will have no problem being a good NBA scorer. One thing we know that you're going to get from a Kelvin Sampson guard is effort on the defensive end. He is going to play defense at the next level. He plays defense now at a high level. He's going to play defense in the NBA. He's going to continue to develop his defensive playmaking abilities. So that's something you don't have to worry about with him, as opposed to maybe some other guards in the draft. I really like Kingston Fleming. His ability to really run a team as a true freshman, especially one that is not, like Houston is not super young. That's just not how they build their program and build their rosters. But he is for sure like the alpha leader on that team. He has the ball in his hands late in games, late in shot clocks. Yeah, those are all great signs of a true blue point guard, somebody you want on your roster. So whether it's real NBA we're talking here, or categories Dynasty, I'm putting Kingston Fleming on your team is definitely not going to make them worse, and it almost assuredly will have a dramatic upside increase. I think he's awesome, personally.
Is there a team you'd like to see him on?
Man, a team that I would like to see him on.
Yeah, because I think he's the first guy where he's probably like the top four. I think is pretty solid. We're starting to get into where people are flip flopping people around. So fit probably. I mean, fit always matters, but fit is going to matter more once you get into this range. I have heard the Atlanta argument a lot.
Yeah.
I do think that would be pretty good for him. I think that would, with him and Jalen Johnson, I think that'd be an interesting combination. They kind of help. They seem to benefit each other because I think Johnson needs like a point of attack defender who can also create as like a secondary guy for him. So I think that's a good fit.
Yeah, Atlanta would be a good fit. For me, I think Dallas would be preferable. It just makes a little bit more sense with the timelines.
Sure.
You know, they have, as good as Cooper Flag is, he's still 2 years away from being like leading a team in a playoff push, probably.
Yep.
So you bring in Flemings, you let them kind of run it together for the foreseeable future, and then that's your core going down the road. But I wouldn't be upset with Atlanta though. I like that fit also.
Yeah, I think he's probably one of the easier ones to find a spot for. I don't think he is as fit dependent as some of the other guards, but I do think it does start to matter a little bit more in this range. If he went to a team that had a ton of guards, obviously that would become a problem. You bring up Dallas. I think Dallas is in a great spot, right? Like they're looking to be like a 5th to the 10th pick. Like, they could do better. Obviously, they could jump up, but they're in like the perfect spot to get a guard, which I think is something they need, like a creator. So they're gonna probably have a chance, and if they get that right, that's a team that's got a bright future. Obviously, with Cooper Flag. So just throwing that out there, I think they're in a good spot. They're getting lucky on the guard draft. Okay. So Fleming's average of 5.5 in the aggregate. I had him at 5. Bentley had him at 6. Next, we had two guys tied at 7. One is Mikael Brown, who I had at 6, and Bentley had at 8. And then Keaton Wagler, who we both had at 7. So they're tied. I put Mikael Brown technically above him because I have him at 6, so he has the highest level. So I'll go over what I like about Mikael Brown really quickly. Good size. He's grown a lot since his high school days. I think he's grown like 3 or 4 inches. He is my favorite passer in the draft. That doesn't mean that he's the best passer, but he's the guy who tries the most things, and I think that's a good sign for the future. He's also a little turnover prone because of some of that trying. But I think if that can be harnessed and controlled, I think that could lead to a very high assist player. He's a microwave scorer. We've talked about that. When he gets hot, he can shoot the ball as well as anybody. And if that can be turned into something consistent, he could really be a high level guy. He's, like I said, got good size. I think he's going to get some steals because of that size, just his length and playing the passing lanes. I think at some point he'll become an efficient shooter, or at least an okay shooter, which will be big. Rebounding is kind of whatever, but I think the potential passing ability and he might be the best 3-point shooting guard, freshman guard in this class, like point guard, because some of these other guys are combo guards. But some people do view Mikael Brown as a combo guard. I view him as a 1. I think he needs to be able to play the point guard in my opinion. But that's kind of what I like about him. But again, I think it's him and Wagler were very close for me as well. So they're just different players. And then for Wagler, obviously more of a combo guard, can play the 1 and the 2, can play on ball and off ball, which I think is a huge benefit, right? His fit is going to be good for basically any team he goes to because he can play either guard spot. He has been elite from the 3-point line. His problem is athleticism, doesn't have vertical explosiveness, doesn't have a lot of lateral explosiveness. But he's very controlled. He uses his body well. He's got good footwork. He, like I said, can shoot the lights out of the ball, passes well, and gets a decent amount of steals. I don't expect the defensive stats to be great for him, which is one of the negatives I see. But I think offensively, he will be a solid player across the board, and even a decent rebounder because he's got good size as well at 6'6". Needs to get bigger as well because he doesn't have the explosiveness. He needs to have the size to be able to move guys out of the way, right? We saw that with Dimon this year. Dimon's even smaller. Yegor Jimin, I never know how they are pronouncing it now. It's a different pronunciation every time I see it. But if he can get bigger, move people around with his body, I think he'll be good. That's my opinion on it. You have Wagler just above Mikael Brown. What do you like about Keaton Wagler's game, if I haven't said it already? And What do you not like about Keaton Wagler's game?
The biggest drawdown to Keaton Wagler is his lack of size. He has the height and the length. He doesn't have the girth, I guess is what we're going with here. But he is, yeah, he's also super young. Maybe he goes to New Orleans and gets on that Zion Williamson diet and kind of fills out a little bit. I like everything about his game, honestly. He was not a guy that was high on my radar coming into the year. I've watched more Illinois as time goes along. And I'm like, man, that dude is just really, he's just good at basketball, My write-up here that I did said, I called him Mr. Do-It-All, because he really does. He has the ability to score the ball at all three levels, and that is complemented nicely by his ability to pass the ball and be a playmaker on the offensive side. It's like the dude, he just understands how the game works at a high level. That's not really something you can teach. That's inherent almost, it feels like to me. But because of the growth that we've seen in his game, even from, high school coming to where he is now, because he has improved so much, what that indicates to me is that he's a coachable player, right? So he has taken all of the coaching that he received and practiced those things and really grown as a player and developed into someone who's awesome right now, right, at Illinois. I don't see any reason why that would stop in the NBA. He seems like a guy who is going to just get better and better as time goes on. And he, you mentioned it, he doesn't have the best footwork, he's not the fastest, and there are plenty of physical limitations there with him, but he is young. He has time to grow into his body. And if he's already taken steps, such large strides of improvement with his game at this age, I think that's a plus going into the next phase of his career, obviously being a professional basketball player. So I'm very high on him. I like him a lot. He's not, in the elite tier of this class like we have at the top, but he's a net positive when he's on the court, and especially in a categories league, he's gonna stuff the stat sheet and should get you quite the contribution in a bunch of different categories. Michael Brown, I don't think I'm as high on Michael Brown as a lot of people. That's not to say that I dislike Michael Brown. I think that his scoring is a little streaky. I literally have written down, if this were 2K, his special skill icon would be a microwave. Because, he goes on these scoring streaks where it's just incredible. And you mentioned him being an awesome three-point shooter. That is true. That's a skill that translates to the NBA. I don't love his passing as much as you do. I don't... being turnover prone in college oftentimes does not correct itself by playing against guys who are bigger, stronger, and faster. Right? That's not something that just fixes itself. Now, obviously, same as Wagler, same as a bunch of these other guys, he's super young and could develop that skill. He could cut down on the turnovers. He could become a lot better when he goes to the NBA. That is absolutely possible. But as it currently stands, I would rather have Wagler than I would Michael Brown.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think they're pretty close to each other. I just think the upside for Brown's a little better. I do think Wagler is definitely a great floor play. His versatility is going to be good in fantasy, like you said, and also in the NBA. He'll give you. He's a better rebounder. He's currently as good of an assist player as Michael Brown is, but Michael Brown has the potential to be a high-end top 10 point guard in the league, where I just don't see Wagler at that level personally as a combo guard. I could see him being a top 20 guy, that wouldn't shock me, but I don't see the top 10 potential. But also Brown could very easily never be able to shoot consistently and turns the ball over a ton and then he's out of the league. So, I know I said I'm risk averse, but I feel like the ceiling is quite a bit higher for Brown, so I was happy putting him just one spot above, basically. So that was my justification there. And what I will say is, depending on the team you're trying to build, different profiles, just like with Flemings, if you're building a stocks build, he makes a lot of sense. Not that you build just a stocks build, but a team that gets stocks, Flemings makes a lot of sense and can help you other places. Wagler is not going to do that. He's the exact opposite, basically. He's going to do all the offensive things for you. So if you're building an efficient team that maybe rebounds and passes the ball at a decent amount. He's kind of perfect for that. And like I said, Mikael Brown, kind of an upside swing with the assist upside and the potential shooting ability. But yeah, just from a how's your team look perspective, that's where I am for this. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is the guy we have by far the largest difference in. This guy was not on my top 10, but luckily I've already done my top 20, and he was on my top 20. 11. So, and then you have him at number 5 on your top 10. So that's a big difference. And I think more people agree with you than me, which clearly shows I'm wrong. But Darius Acuff, he gets an 8 average. Like I said, 11 to 5 there. You have him at number 5. So you have him basically as your best point guard and best guard outside of Peterson in the class, for at least for fantasy. You convince me why you're correct, and I'll give you my counterpoints. How about that?
Yeah, even... So I have a very simple reason for this, but I think that I should caveat it by like looking back at my list and talking this out. I think I would flip him in Fleming's. So I would then put Acuff at 5 and Fleming's at 5, and I move Acuff down. But whatever, for the sake of the exercise, we'll leave it where it is. So there's a very common phrase that goes back, I don't know how many years, goes back at least 15. And it was, when in doubt, just draft the guard from Kentucky. Because when Cal was at Kentucky, and people would draft the guards to play for him, more often than not, those guys ended up being good NBA players. Now, it wasn't always the case, right? You got like the Harrison twins and Tyler Ulis and some other misses in there. But oftentimes, you're drafting the guard that played for Coach Cal in college. He comes to the NBA, and he's just awesome. Now, if you draft the guard who was awesome in college when he played for Coach Cal and then came into the NBA, usually that player was really, really good. So that's what I'm banking this on, right? Is Darius Acuff is an awesome guard. Awesome guard in college. He plays for Coach Cal. He's going to the league. Draft him, set it and forget it. It just makes sense. He is an elite scorer at the college basketball level. 50-point game. He had 30 the other night. Like, the guy, he can score anywhere on the court, basically at any time that he wants. There probably are more downsides to his game than maybe Fleming's or maybe Mikael Brown. I don't know. I like Acuff better than Brown, but that's just me. You know, he's not much of an off-ball threat. Not uncommon for a guy of that age. You know, he's been the guy everywhere he's played for his entire life. It makes sense that he does not have an off-ball game right now. But that's something that he'll have to figure out when he comes into the league, or he'll just be a heliocentric scoring first point guard, which, unless you're James Harden, doesn't often translate to, like, winning basketball. Again, I'm betting on the upside here. I think that his ability to score the ball is so high, like, it's so developed, that, especially for our Dynasty League, right, if you draft Acuff and he comes in, he's going to be a high scorer every single night when he's playing in the NBA, that he's going to add so much value to that specific position on your team that it justifies him being as high. I guess now it would be 6 because I flip-flopped them in my own head. It would justify that ranking on my list.
Okay, well, I think that is the argument for him being as high as you have him. I think if what you say is true, then I agree with where you have him. And I'm not saying you're like lying or like withholding information. I'm saying the projection of him as a player. He, out of all of the high-end prospects, he scares me by far the most. Devonsta scares me. I've stated that already, and I've told you this for 2 weeks now that he scares me as a prospect. I would still rather take him as a risk because of the size and some of the other things that I think make his floor not so bad. Darius Acuff's floor is pretty low. Like, he's small. He is a horrible defender, like awful defender, one of the worst defenders in the country. So is Dybantsa, but Dybantsa's at least 6'9", and probably will be able to like at least get his hands in the way every now and then. Darius Acuff is long for his height, but he's only 6'3", not gigantic. He's okay size-wise. His steal and block percentage are some of the lowest in the entire NCAA. I agree about his off-ball game. What I will say, and this is a counterpoint to what I think about him, his off-ball shooting has been really good and has been better more recently. Like they've done some off-ball stuff with him.
Mm-hmm.
off-ball three-point, like catch and shoot's been pretty good. But there's not a lot else. Like that's about it. He needs that though. Like if that is real, I feel a lot better about him because I agree that if his only possible role is the guy with the ball in his hands and he doesn't play any defense, the potential things you need to get correct and to be good at are so many that more than likely you fail. Not because you're a bad basketball player, but it's just very difficult to be good at all of those things, right? It's like my concern with Jeremiah Fears. They're not the same player, but I said this when Jeremiah Fears got drafted. For him to be able to be successful, he's a horrible defender. He can't shoot. He's an okay playmaker, but he gets to the rim as well as any guard, right, at his age. And it's like he needs other stuff besides that. He can't just do that. The other stuff is really difficult. He's probably not going to ever become a good enough defender. Same for Akov. He'll probably never be like a good enough defender. And though that may not affect his fantasy profile a ton, it will affect his how often he plays and how long he's in the NBA profile, right?
Yeah.
I view him currently as like a six man. That's what I think he actually is, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. He's a draftable player. Like he could be a great six man, right? Where he runs the second team. I just don't feel comfortable expecting him to play 35 minutes like that. I just don't expect that, right? I think he could be like a 20-minute per game guy. Now, if he gets everything right, like you said, he should go probably top 5 or 6. Like I think that's completely fair because he's going to light up every offensive category there is, pretty much except for rebounding. So if you are a team that is built like Mike in our league, his team is built around offensive statistics. Darius Ikov is a great pick for him because if it works out, it basically replaces things he'll lose eventually with the other people leaving. He'll continue to build that team how he wants, assuming he keeps that strategy going. A team like mine, I'm like a no efficiency, do everything but score efficiently. I don't know if he makes a ton of sense for me. I'm also terrified of his role in the NBA only being a heliocentric player, and if he can't be that, he's out of the league. The thing that scares me the most is a comp I heard for him, and this will scare you too, so be prepared. They said, is he just slightly better Trey Burke? And I compared the two, and it's actually not that far off. Like size-wise, the advanced metrics look very similar. The statistics, like the traditional statistics, look very similar. Trey Burke was great at Michigan. Like he was AP National Player of the Year, right? His sophomore year at Michigan, and then went to the draft. If he's Trey Burke, like he's out of the league.
Yeah.
Like he plays his rookie deal and it's probably gone, like more than likely, and that terrified me. So
Trey Burke didn't play for Calipari.
No, that's true, and I agree. The pedigree from Calipari and the guards that play for him, I completely agree. And Akov has been, right when I took him out of my top 10, he's been playing even better. So he's been trying to show that he can do it. Not for me personally, I don't think he earned, but he's clearly trying to show that he can be that. It needs so many things to go right that I don't feel comfortable taking him. Like for us, we have 10 people in our league. It would be a first round pick for us. In most leagues, it's like a 12-team league, right? He might be fine at the end of the first. If you are a really bad team and you have multiple first, I think he's a good swing because worst case scenario is out of the league and it like doesn't kill you. But if it works out, it's really good. If you are a team that's trying to compete, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole because I don't think he's going to do anything for you. And if he ever does, it'll be too late, in my opinion. I think it's going to take him a long time to figure it out. So that's kind of my argument against. You have any counter arguments there? You feel good about that conversation?
Well, I mean, so your fear of his. First off, I don't think he's Trey Burke. I'm just gonna
that's fair.
Put that one aside. Your fear of his role in the NBA makes sense to me, and I get why that is a concern. I understand. I would have the same concern if I wasn't like as high on him as I am. He makes sense because what you said, he's going to fill every offensive category for a categories league, right? He has the ability to get to the free throw line. He makes his free throws. He can shoot from behind the arc. He can get downhill and score at the bucket. Like, obviously, I'm betting on projection here, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I feel pretty good about his ability to play on an NBA team and be a real contributor and be a lead scorer for a bad NBA team because he's going to be a decently high draft pick.
Yeah, I agree that he's going to get the runway more than likely. Like I would not be shocked if he goes fifth in the draft and gets a ton of runway to figure it out. So he's going to have a better chance than probably Trey Burke ever did to figure it out, like as far as draft capital and what they expect out of him. I'm not saying he's Trey Burke. I just the comparison is there, and that does make me nervous. So, and I think Trey Burke was probably a better defender than he is. So that's probably not a good sign.
Trey Burke was not as fast nor was he the shooter that Acuff is.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. It just I think it's more just Trey Burke needed the ball in his hands and wasn't good enough with it, and then he didn't provide literally anything else, so he basically was out of the league. Like I think he had like some 6-man type, like coming off the bench stuff, not 6-man, but like 8-man type stuff for a little while. But and I can see that with Acuff too, where he hangs around as like a bench guy too. Like that wouldn't shock me either. But his upside is very high. If you want to take a swing, I don't blame you. It's just not a swing I personally feel like I would take at 5. If he's there at 12, 13, like I feel great doing that. I'd probably do that. Just my personal. Again, I'm a little risk averse when it comes to that type of stuff. So okay, well that was our biggest difference. So we'll speed run these next two guys. We have Nate Ament at he got an 8.5. So I had him at 8. You had him at 9. Yeah, he's really long, 6'10", power forward. You're projecting that he can be a shooter and scorer once his body fills out. He kind of grew into his body really late. I think most people that have watched him play at all know that story. He grew like 6 inches over like a 1.5 year period or something like that. So he rose up recruiting boards really quickly. His counting stats are pretty decent. His efficiency's been bad this year at Tennessee, but also the SEC is very physical. I actually didn't like that he went to Tennessee. I thought that actually hurt his draft stock. I think if he would have went to maybe the ACC, where it's not as physical all the way across the board, right? There's physical teams in the ACC, but the entire ACC is not as physical as the SEC is. I think that could have helped him out a little bit. He probably would have looked a little better. But if he can fill out and the shot can get there, he can rebound the ball with his size. He's a decent playmaker at his position. Like he's not like he doesn't have incredible vision, but he's got decent feel. And I think when his body fills out, he'll be able to get passes off a little easier because it's just tough for him to get the angles that he wants right now. The free throw shooting's been okay. He gets 1 steal a game, half a block, not a ton there, but again, you hope with the physicality and the muscle increase, some of that will go up as well. So this is again a projection play. Why do I have him higher? If Acuff is a big projection for me, I just feel better about Ament's potential projection, like in his floor. I feel like it's a lot higher because of the size and the ball skills. That's basically my difference there. If Darius Acuff was 6'10", he'd be the first pick in the draft. It's just a different situation. You're a Virginia guy. We both live in Virginia. There's Manassas, Virginia, Nate Ament hometown. How do you feel about your fellow statesman?
I love Nate Ament. I understand that the efficiency has not been great this year. If you grew 6 inches in a 1.5 years, I would not expect you to be great at like tall people stuff right away either. So I think he will be okay. I understand the hesitancy that some people might have, believing that the efficiency will correct itself when the competition gets worse. It's sort of the old like, don't draft the quarterback who has a low completion percentage in college because that oftentimes does not get corrected in the NFL. This is a weird situation for Nate Ament, right? The height thing. You mentioned the physicality of the league and the SEC. So the argument could be made that the role he is going to play in the NBA is going to be a less physical role than what he is currently playing in the SEC. Just because of the spacing allowed on an NBA court. If he goes to a team that runs like a fluid type of offense, he's going to get open shots, and he's going to be able to knock them down. The rest of the skill set will come along with time. I don't think he's an immediate like impact guy day one when he gets drafted to the NBA, but I think he's very raw, and he's malleable right now in his skill set. But I think that he's going to be a very good NBA player for a while. That's my opinion. He's super raw, like I very easily could be wrong about this. One of my favorite sleepers in this draft. He's not my favorite sleeper in this draft. He's one of my favorite sleepers. I tried to get you to stop talking about him when we were talking to Sam a couple weeks ago because she has no idea who this person is. And I was like, do not tell her so that she does not draft him, please. I don't know. Obviously the Virginia thing, I want to root for a Virginia kid, so that doesn't help my bias at all. But I don't think I'm super far off with this because obviously you had him even higher than I did in my ranking you have on yours. So I feel pretty good just trusting in the raw potential and the growth ability of him going into the NBA.
Yeah, I will say Sam does not have a first round pick this year. She probably will not get him unless he falls, which is possible, but she'll have like a mid second. He'd have to fall to like 15, 16. I don't think he gets there. Unless we just have a crazy draft where people are like falling in love with the upperclassmen or something. I don't think he's going to be there. I think I have I'll probably have pick 8 or 9 more than likely, somewhere in that, depending on how the playoffs go. So, maybe he's on my team. Who knows? We'll see.
God damn it.
Well, I mean, you could do terrible in the playoffs, and then you can get him if you want.
Sure, I might.
But then you'd be like pick 7, and you'll probably want to take like Wagler or something like that. So that kind of, though he would fit your team, I think, to some extent. Okay, the last guy, really quick. We said there were no international players. This guy technically is an international player, but he's playing in NCAA. He was born in Würzburg, Germany. I think that I pronounced that correctly, I believe. He is a 6'11", 220-pound center named Hannes Steinbach, or Hans. Some people say. I've heard both pronunciations. I've not heard him say his own name, so I don't know for sure. But I'll say Hannes because I like how that sounds. It sounds cool. Why is he here? You may say. You're probably, if you're watching this, you've probably looked at some NBA mock drafts and you're like, Steinbach at best is going like mid first round, right? 15th. Some have him like late first, right? All the way down closer to 30. He might be the best rebounder in the class by like a lot. And I think Boozer's a great rebounder. I think there's other guys who are great rebounders, but Steinbach's rebounding percentage is insane for a guy that's as young as he is and as skinny as he is for a 6'11 guy. Like 220 is not big. He has a natural ability to figure out the flight of the ball, get rebounds. He's the best defensive rebounder in the entire country by percentage. I think he's like 8th or 9th in offensive rebounding percentage. He will be likely elite at both of those because rebounding translates. I think it's one of the few skills that pretty much directly translates. Like if Oscar Tshiebwe could play for long periods, he would probably average like 14 rebounds a game. He would do nothing else, but he probably would be able to do that, right? It's just it's a skill people have. What I will say about him is he's got some offensive game. He can score with his back to the basket. He can finish with both hands, which is rare for a lot of bigs. He's got good touch. He is a decent free throw shooter. He's about 76% free throw shooter and has shown some three-point range. He shoots 34% on very low volume. The free throw percentage indicates that may be real. Usually those are correlated, the three-point capability with the free throw percentage, with the touch. But even if none of that works out, he will be an elite rebounder. If you are a team that wants a guy who will rebound the ball, he's going to do that. He's also probably going to be a decent playmaker for his size. Like not a good one, but like 2.5 assists per game would not shock me at the NBA level. So yeah, he's an incredible rebounder. He's going to give you some scoring. He's not going to do much for you defensively. From a defensive statistics standpoint, that's one of his big weaknesses. But I would not be shocked if he has the offensive game of a guy like Hartenstein. I said this before the pod. I think he has a similar game, but I think he's an even better rebounder than Hartenstein is at the NBA level. So I had him at 9 and you had him at 10. So very close. How do you feel about Hannes Steinbach?
Dude's a double-double machine. He, with some of the shooting ability that you mentioned there, the point of the free throw percentage being high, indicating that some of the actual jump shooting range is real, I think is a very good point. Don't know how much he's going to be asked to do that in the NBA because he is such a good rebounder that teams are going to want him around the rim. But if you're a team in your Dynasty League looking to increase your free throw percentage, your field goal percentage, your rebounding, like this is an immediate addition, kind of no-brainer in my opinion, if you get him towards the end of your first round. It just makes all the sense in the world. It honestly doesn't even matter what team he gets drafted by, where he goes. He's a walking double-double. Like that's what I envision when I see this guy, and a kid who's getting better, right? He's going to fill out, like physically, so he will be larger. His ability to score with the back to the basket, like you mentioned, finishing with both hands, an underrated skill that some people might be shocked to know that not all big men can do that. So I really like him. It would be a high value draft pick, and you're getting a guy who is a freshman playing at such an elite level. Like, so you're going to have him for a long time. It's not as though you're drafting a fourth-year center. It's not me drafting Ryan Kalkbrenner last year. Like, you're getting a guy who is entering development stages of his life and already playing at such a high level. So you feel really good if you add this guy to your roster. I might be a guy I'm looking at. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah, I think he's got a clear role. I think he's one of the more draftable players from a fantasy perspective because you kind of know what you're getting, at least initially. So if you have a very specific goal in mind, like I said, and like you said with your build, I think he's going to be able to do that. The big swing for him is, can he hold up defensively for long periods of time where he can stay on the floor? If he can do that, if he can just be like an average defender, then man, he's going to be great. He's going to be great statistically. He's going to rack up rebounds. He's going to score the ball, level. Even if he only makes a 3 a game, that's a lot for a guy at his position. So it's just a nice little feather on the cap for that type of player. So I think this is someone who is going to be a better fantasy player than they probably are going to be an NBA player. But I still think will be a very valuable NBA player, especially with a lot of teams going to focusing on extra possessions and trying to control the glass a lot more. Going big, you see more double bigs and those types of things. And I think he fits that style quite well. So yeah, that's everybody. There was only one player in my top 10 that wasn't talked about, which was LeBaron Philon, and we'll likely go over him in the next pod. I had him at number 10. He was the only non-freshman in my top 10, and Bentley went full freshman. So a lot of young guys, because we're talking Dynasty here. There's a lot of great players, upperclassmen. They're just a little older. These are guys that have that potential. They may not be great right away. We love this class. I think everybody loves this class. I have argued if you can get first round picks this year, do what you can to do it. Even around 10, there's a lot of value. So if you still have time in the off season to make those moves, I'd be trading 2027 first for 2026 if you can get away with it. Giving up guys that you don't want for 2026 first, I'd be looking for it. Unless, of course, you have like a 30 team league, then the first may not be as valuable. But if you're in a normal league with 10 to 15 teams, I think those first round picks are pretty valuable. So yeah, I appreciate everybody listening. In the future, we'll go over more of these. I at least have already done the top 20. Maybe Bentley at some point will do the top 20. We can compare. I'm hoping to get down to like 30 to do like an actual full first round because it starts to get a little wonky once you get down into that range. But yeah, like I said, thanks everybody. Bentley, I appreciate you coming. Do you have anything you want to say before we log off?
Just a quick shout out to Mitchell Robinson. He got me a block already, so Sam and I are tied currently.
Yep, he's your guy. He's your guy. If you're gonna get blocks, he's your guy.
My guy, Mitchell Robinson, got a block to draw me to a tie with Sam. Just
who's a Knicks fan?
Yeah.
You'll have to disown him.
True.
Well, thank you. Insightful as always. We will see y'all next time on the No Ball Dynasty podcast. Like I said, give us a follow. You can subscribe on YouTube if you're watching there, Spotify, Apple Pod. You'll see me post on Reddit sometimes with this if you're in those, and we appreciate it. Have a good one, everybody.